everybody, and thank you for joining me as I continue my team-by-team analysis of the 2022 World Cup. And today it is the World Cup holders, no less, in France, a country that rejoiced and partied 4 years ago, and we'll be hoping for much more of the same this time around. You can catch my other team previews and analysis on the channel, and if you'd be so kind as to hit a like and a subscribe, it would make you a World Cup legend. So let's take a closer look into France. France will enter this year's World Cup as one of the favourites again, looking to reclaim their crown from 4 years ago in Russia. Before we look at their football pedigree, let's take a look at some interesting facts about the country. They actually have more Nobel Prize winners than any other country, with a total of 15. France is also the home to one of the most visited paintings in the world, the Mona Lisa, as well as the Venus de Milo, also on show. Here's another strange and interesting fact. Private radio stations in France must play at least 35% of all music in French, which is a rather random percentage to choose. But whatever you do, don't get caught kissing at the train station while the train is in the platform. It's actually illegal. However, if the train hasn't arrived and the platform is empty, then go nuts. Now on to the football, of course, and France are 2 times winners of the World Cup, one of only 6 countries to have lifted the trophy more than once. Despite a couple of poor group stage exits in 2002 and 2010, France have consistently made at least the quarter-finals in the 2 World Cups since, with 3 final appearances now in the last 6 World Cups. In the 2018 World Cup, France finally realised their potential in recent years, culminating in an emphatic 5-2 victory over Croatia in the final, winning through the group with 7 points, which included a win over Australia and a draw against Denmark, who were both in their group again. This time saw them draw Argentina in the round of 16. A thrilling 4-3, fantastic tie played out one of the most exciting knockout games in recent history, as Kylian Mbappe scored 2 wonderful goals, really announcing himself on the world stage as one of the best players in the world. Strong Uruguayan and Belgium teams were then defeated by the French on their route to the final, as Croatia had no answer defensively to a France team in full flow. There are many in France and around the world who believe they can do the same again this time around. Now, Didier Deschamps has now been in charge of the French national team for the best part of a decade, overseeing over 130 games as head coach. He's entering his 3rd World Cup in charge of France, having now been successful at lifting the trophy as both a player and a manager. His 64% win ratio shows consistency, but he did come under some heavy scrutiny for his tactics in the way France exited the Euro 2020 tournament to Switzerland in the quarter-finals last summer, winning Ligue 1 with Marseille before the rise of PSG that was, and steering Juventus back to Serie A after their famous relegation due to their involvement in the 2006 Italian football scandal. In qualifying, France had expected a relatively straightforward passage through to Qatar to be able to defend their crown. Closest challengers in the group were Ukraine and Finland, who were both quite a distance away in the end, as well as the other teams in the group, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kazakhstan. With only 3 goals conceded in qualifying, the French were solid defensively. And without being spectacular going forward, France methodically worked their way through the group. Their biggest victory actually came at home against Kazakhstan, where the French trounced their opponents 8-0, a sign of what this team is capable of with their forward firepower. France were victors in 5 out of their 8 games, but they were held 3 times overall in the qualification section. In fact, the French only had 2 wins out of their first 5 games. After being held by Ukraine twice, as well as a home tie against Bosnia, France did see the job off with 2 victories over Finland and a demolition job of Kazakhstan. In the Nations League earlier this year, France again failed to hit the consistent heights, only winning 1 of their 6 games against Austria. More worryingly for France, they lost twice to group challengers Denmark, whom also made the semi-finals of the Euros in last summer's championship, so we'll be very wary about that match to come. Now, what team will Deschamps put out at the World Cup? During their qualification and the Nations League, Deschamps adjusted things tactically quite a lot, in a mix of formations from a 4-2-3-1, a 4-4-2, as well as even a 3-4-2-1, which was seen in recent matches against Austria and Denmark. But I'm going to share what a 4-2-3-1 might look like for France on opening day. There's an embarrassment of riches in the French squad, with multiple options for every position, so there's a good chance I'm going to get this very wrong when the tournament comes around. Hugo Lloris is likely to start in goal, although Deschamps has been using Mike Maignan of AC Milan in recent matches. In the back four, Benjamin Pavard, who really made his name actually at the 2018 World Cup with that phenomenal strike against Argentina, and Lucas Digne at left back could be used if they opt for a system with fullbacks. Or centrally, William Saliba has had an excellent start to his Premier League season with Arsenal, and the recent injury to Raphael Varane at the time of recording opens up the opportunity for Presnel Kimpembe, Jules Koundé, Theo Hernandez, possibly Ibrahima Konate, just to name a few options in that centre-back position. In midfield, it's anyone's guess, as even with the loss of Paul Pogba to injury, it was actually Adrien Rabiot who's been getting the majority of the minutes. They may well use this tournament as a springboard for Eduardo Camavinga. If not, Ferland Mendy, Moussa Diaby, there are few to name as options, as N'Golo Kante is another one on the injured list for the World Cup. In the front three, I would expect Benzema and Mbappe for sure, but never rule out a role for Olivier Giroud, as he's done it many times before for France, and he works very well with Mbappe. On the right side of attack, it's likely a shootout between Christopher Nkunku and Kingsley Coman. But really, a lot of this is a guessing game, as it's been the variety in Deschamps' selection which makes predicting who he's going to play and how he's going to play very difficult. Now we move on to players to watch, and it's not a surprise that we start with the phenomenon that is Kylian Mbappe. Absolutely pivotal to their success in 2018 and widely recognised as one of the best players in the world in the current era. What I'm sharing with you here are the attributes from his player profile in Football Manager. It's just to give a flavour of how he is rated within the game. The attributes that you see in bold link to his preferred position and the skills and attributes that are key to that role. Mbappe will undoubtedly play a pivotal role in Deschamps' side in Qatar. He's already earned 59 caps, and with 28 goals to his name, seems certain to send all the national team records tumbling. Current all-time leading goal scorer internationally for France is Thierry Henry with 51 goals, and it's well worth noting that at the same age as Mbappe, the former Arsenal forward had found the net just 8 times for his country. With Mbappe racing towards this figure, he'll be hoping that he can add much more to his tally in this tournament. Alongside Mbappe, the French also have the latest Ballon d'Or winner in their ranks. As striker Karim Benzema grabbed the headlines with a dream 2021-22 season that yielded a raft of magical moments. 5th triumphs in both La Liga and the Champions League, as well as a 4th Spanish Super Cup. Plus, for the first time since joining Real Madrid in 2009, Benzema was the leading scorer in the Spanish top flight with 27 goals in a season. Benzema has established himself as a key figure for France since his return from the international wilderness, notching an impressive 10 goals since his return to the national team setup in Euro 2020, which was of course played last summer in 2021, to bring his total tally to 37. Deschamps will be hoping that Benzema could fire his side to victory again at Qatar 2022. Having chalked up 97 caps, the Real Madrid forward is closing in on a century of appearances, a feat that's been achieved by just 9 players who have represented France in the past. Aurélien Tchouameni is the rising star of the French team. Just 22 years old, Tchouameni impresses with his maturity, and it's a talent that Real Madrid spotted and acted upon, bringing him to Spain. His meteoric rise, he has already become a key player in Carlo Ancelotti's team, whose praised his strength and his character. He progressed through all of the youth teams in the French national team system before making his first start for the main national side on the 1st of September 2021 against Bosnia and Herzegovina. While Paul Pogba continues his recovery and N'Golo Kante misses out completely due to injury, Tchouameni could certainly be one of the key cornerstones of Deschamps' system. A shadow worker, the midfielder with a good height is known for his physicality as well as his qualities in defensive positions. Now moving on to who the French will play in Qatar, and they open their Group D campaign against Australia, who again qualified strongly out of the Oceanic Asian section. They only once qualified for the last 16 phase, and they did meet France of course in the opening game of 2018, with the French coming out 2-1 winners in a tighter game than was expected. They'll be heavily favourites on opening night, but the same was said in 2002 after the French won their first World Cup in 1998, where they were humbled by Senegal and the group stage was a disaster. Denmark are in the group again, as Group D is in fact 2/3 the same as it was last time. It will be a tough and interesting game. There's obviously 2 losses to Denmark in recent history, plus with the Danish reaching the semi-finals at Euro 2020. The expectation is these two are the clear group standouts. But also, we can't forget Tunisia, who of course share a lot of cultural similarities between the two countries and will play France in that final game. France will be expecting, however, to not just qualify, but also to win the group. Now it's time for me to take a punt and predict where I think France will finish. My thought process with this is France still have an incredible side and a very strong squad. They also have Kylian Mbappe, who can take the game away from you in an instant. Denmark likely pose the biggest threat in the group, but I do expect France to qualify and probably win the group, although they might drop points in the Denmark game. They would then be favourites in the last 16 clash too. But I see overall it could end at the semi-final stage. There's some big boys in this tournament who are in good form, including the South American teams. France are rightfully amongst that mix and are more than capable to win the whole thing again. But with fine margins, I think they might just miss out on the final this time. And with that, I thank you for taking the time to watch this episode of the World Cup analysis I've been doing. The other teams, as I said, are on the channel with more to come. But for now, I hope to catch you soon. Take care.